For me, the first time I probably ever consciously felt I had a mental health problem was probably the start of 2015. At the end of 2014, December that year, me and my girlfriend broke up. We'd been together for a while, and that plunged me into quite a severe depression. So at that time, I would have probably told you that was when I started suffering with mental health problems, mainly depression. But now, because I've spent so much time working on my own mental health, I could probably trace it back to maybe around about 2010 was the first time where I probably actually felt depressed, mainly when I was at university. There was times where I used to just come home and shut the curtains and just want to lie in bed. But when it all kind of kicked off, when that big event, when my girlfriend and I broke up, I didn't realise that. it had actually been there for a while. So I think that event was probably which really triggered into becoming serious. So it'd always been there, I think, from as early, probably for my whole life, but I remembered it as early as 2010. But when me and my girlfriend broke up, it was quite tough for me personally, and for her, I can imagine. And that's when I went into a really severe depression. And these feelings that I remember in the past before that, there'd be times when I maybe be drinking at the weekends and feel like I feel suicidal, but never anything really during the week. But then these suicidal feelings and thoughts that I was having just under the influence of alcohol started to become something that I was feeling like every day. And that happened from about the beginning of 2015 right up to 26th of May 2015 when I did attempt suicide. One night, the 26th of May 2015, I woke up. It was about 1 in the morning and I'd been sleeping since about 5 p.m. and that was what was going on at that time. I was sleeping any time I could. Sleeping was like the sort of escape. And so I woke up at 1 in the morning. I knew it was going to be another one of those nights, tossing and turning the whole night and then having to try and get up and go to work the next day. And I just thought, no way, there's just no way I can do it. I'd been pushed past what I called my breaking point, and that night the pain that I was in felt like greater than the perceived pain of suicide. So I just thought I had to do it, and I had this idea of crashing my car, and I just went downstairs, took the car keys, went out in the car, went onto the M8 motorway and just drove it about 80 miles an hour into the concrete barrier and tried to kill myself. For me, I woke up in hospital the next day and woke up and was the instant realisation it never worked, and now all my family are going to know I was going through this emotional pain. I couldn't bother with dealing with that stuff of everybody knowing, because I was kind of kept it quite private up to that point. But then all the tests came back, there was no internal damage, there was no cuts, no scratches, not a bruise. Like I am right now, the physical condition, maybe a wee bit fitter than I was then, but this is how I was in the hospital. And I've never been spiritual, never been religious, but that night I walked along to the little hospital chapel and I just sat in there and thought, I don't know what has happened, but something special has happened. And I wrote a wee message in the book, which we might come back to later in my story because I went to visit it again. And I wrote a message in the book that night that basically said something along the lines of, I don't know what it was or who it was, but you've been kept alive by something or somebody, and it's your job to do something about it. I just had a moment where I just thought, I can't do this anymore, like I'm just ready to change. And I don't know what it was within me, but I picked up a book, and I'd always read books, but I'd never read anything in a while because of how I was living my life. And it was a book called Success Principles by Jack Canfield, who wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul book. And it was that book that really, there's a few books that changed my life, but that was one of them, the one that kind of got me started on the journey. The first chapter of that book was titled, You're 100% in control of your life. And I just read it and I read it again. I didn't feel like it to me at the time. And Jack spoke about a little formula in that book called E plus R equals O, which is the event in your life plus your reaction equals the outcome. And I realised that in order to change the outcome and how I was feeling, I was going to have to change the response. I'd had some tough events, but everybody's had tough events. And if I kept responding the way I was going to keep getting negative outcomes. So I knew I had to change my response. And it was that kind of moment where I think I took responsibility. And I had a moment where I just thought, I'm ready to do this. And I was ready for change. At that time, I didn't really know anything about mental health. And I probably still don't know much about mental health. I'm still a student, still learning for myself personally. But a lot of it was reading about happiness, personal development, a lot of spirituality. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from it was that I had to change, like, what can I control and what can I not control. So I can't control my upbringing or my conditioning or the events in my life, but I can control what I do. When I wake up every single day, I can control the choices that I make. And so what I'd done basically was a thing that I call like a life audit. Like I totally audited my whole life and thought, what areas can I change? And the biggest one for me was probably alcohol, and probably the more physical stuff, like alcohol, food and diet, and exercise. That was really the kind of gateway for me into where I am now. So I now do this thing called the Tartan Explorer, And so September 2015, I kind of thought, you know what, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to do something. And I came up with this crazy idea called the Tartan Explorer. And what that basically was originally was I was going to go around the world in a Scottish morph suit and a kilt promoting Scotland, because I thought, you know what, I've got this second chance at life, I'm just going to do something big, I want to do something crazy. And I thought, what's the thing I'm most passionate about in the world? And it's probably Scotland, because I really love Scotland. And then I was out running one night and I was thinking about how do I tell all my friends and family that I'm giving up this good business in Edinburgh to go around the world in a morph suit. I was thinking about why I was doing it, and I thought, right, well, I was in a car crash, I survived, I was very lucky, and I thought, wait a minute, that's not the real truth, because most people thought it was a car crash, and nobody knew I meant it. And then I remember the exact blade of grass I was running on when I had this thought, back in my hometown Livingston. And I realised that the real why was that because I was in a suicide attempt and I survived. And that's when I had the moment, like the thought that maybe I should go around the world doing something about mental health. That was the moment that kind of changed my life. And now it led me on to this journey. So then I was going to go around the world in a morph suit, raising awareness of mental health and telling my story and showing how one boy can go from almost killing himself to going around the world in this crazy adventure, and then came up with the idea of cycling around the world instead. So then on the 26th of May 2016, I left Scotland with my bike. I wasn't a cyclist at the time, I never cycled, and I pedalled away, aiming to cycle around the world. And on the way, I stopped in at the hospital to go to the church and see what I wrote in the book, because I'd never seen it before and I couldn't even remember what I wrote. And I went in that day, the 1 year anniversary, had my bike and all my stuff on the bike outside waiting to go around the world. And I went in and I was looking for the book and I couldn't find it. And I actually had a moment when I doubted myself and thought, well, maybe I never wrote anything in it. And I went and asked the pastor, and he said, oh, we'll get the old book for you. And I was looking through it and I just spotted my handwriting, and I shut the book because I just thought, oh, I'm actually ready to read it. And I went and opened it, and it's basically, the message said something like, I don't know what it was or who it was, but something or someone has kept you alive. You have been given a reason to live. You don't know what it is yet, but it's your job to go out there and find it. That was it, basically. So came up with the idea of cycling around the world. It was 80 countries, 50,000 miles, and started on the 26th of May 2016. And just up until April this year, 2017, I'd done 10,000 miles and was in my 14th country. And I had my Forrest Gump moment. I don't know if you remember the film Forrest Gump. Maybe it has the bit when he's running around America and he says, I'm going to go home now. And that basically happened to me, because I think that now looking back in the whole thing, when I came up with this idea, like going around the world raising awareness of mental health, it never came out of a huge passion like, oh, I'm somebody who cares so much about this issue. I was just a boy in a lot of pain, and I knew I had a story, I knew I could make an impact, but I didn't notice at the time, but I was just desperately looking for something that was going to change my life and change the way I felt. And I went on that journey and done the 10,000 miles a year in, and started to feel really happy, started to feel really healthy, started to feel like I had a huge purpose in life. And I thought, I never wanted to cycle around the world, it was more just like a running away, I was escaping something, and I just felt I was ready to come home. So I'm now back in Edinburgh, the city that's like my favourite city in the world, feeling happy, healthy, still got a long way to go, but well on the journey, and now just kind of try to find out what it is I want to do in my life. I think something I've done in the past a lot is came out and said, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do, I know exactly what my vision is, my plan is. Now I'm at a stage where I'm actually just kind of admitting to myself and everybody, I don't have a clue what I want to do in my life. I don't have a clue who I am. I'm on a journey to happiness, and I know that by just sharing that journey quite honestly and authentically online, I'm having impact. So that's really what I'm doing at the moment. I'm still kind of trying to figure it out, and I've found that I've been able to help quite a lot of people just by sharing it. Like just by sharing how I'm feeling and just the highs and lows of life, and a young 20-something trying to find his way in the world. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. The message I always say is, first of all, is that there is hope. Like, how you feel now is not how you're going to feel forever. And I think that is a problem when you feel suicidal. You can't really see that it's ever going to change. The second thing I'd probably say is that it's not you, it's just feeling like this. There's so many people out there, and there's so many people who have felt like you have felt now and don't feel like that in the future, so there's hope for that. The third thing I'd say is that, so what I talk a lot about is sort of this yin and yang. On one hand, I'm very like nice and compassionate and caring, I'll say that you can do it, but there's also this sort of other side of me where I'll say that for you to do it and for you to change, you're going to have to put in the work, which is the bit that I think people are scared of saying, because I think we live in quite a politically correct world now where people are actually scared to say that, do you know what, one of the factors for you feeling the way you do might be you. Like, that's a thing that we're not really allowed to say, but for me, when I say that, it's not to say that it's not about fault or who's to blame. The fact is that you are here now as a result of everything that's happened in your life up to this moment. A lot of it's not your fault, but it's about where do you go from here. Like, accept where you are now, forget about the past, and just make today your day one, and try and move forward. Because I think that unless you actually make physical changes in your life, nothing's going to change. Because if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So it's not about blaming people and saying it's your fault. It's not nobody's fault. We're here because of everything that's happened. It's about looking forward, not back.